A Life of Faith, Millie Keith. Book 1, Millie's Unsettled Season. Based on the original text by Martha Finley. Chapter 1, Surprising News. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring forth. Proverbs 27:1. As the winter of 1833 melted away, the woods and gardens around Lansdale traded their blankets of snow for the glad rags of spring. A tinge of yellow-green spread over the woods. Violets and anemones showed their pretty faces. Rivulets danced and sang under apple, peach, and cherry trees in full bloom. Creation seemed to whisper, "Rejoice, he is risen." And with the next breeze, he is risen indeed. The girlish figure who slipped out the back door of the stately brick home in the center of town didn't seem to notice the whisper. She clutched a large, well-worn book to her chest, closed her eyes, and leaned her head against the door. Trust in the Lord. "Millie!" a child's voice called. "Millie, where are you?" "Oh, not now," Millie protested, and ran across the garden to a fragrant cave beneath the arching lilacs. When she was sure that no one could see her behind the curtain of purple blooms, she sat down and opened the book. "You know I'm trying to acknowledge you, Lord," she prayed out loud. "But has there been a mistake? Something has gone wrong this time. I'm sure it has. Remember the verse Mama gave me just yesterday? You must remember it. It's in your book." She flipped the Bible open. Proverbs 3:5. Something cold touched her neck just as her fingers found the place. Millie jumped and whirled to find a little brown and white terrier looking up at her. He pressed his cold nose against her hand. "What are you doing here, Wanago Stanhope?" Millie asked, scooping the pup into her arms. "I'm sure Auntie doesn't know you have escaped." The dog whined and wagged his stub of a tail. "Come on, I'll take you home." She tucked her Bible under one arm, the dog under the other, and walked across the garden to a wrought iron gate, through the gate and another smaller garden to a tall brick house with vine-covered porches. Windows opened to the wide porch across the back of the house, and a sweet voice was drifting from one of them. "A mighty fortress is our God," sang the voice. "Aunt Wealthy?" Millie called. "A bulwark never failing." "Aunt Wealthy?" Millie called again. "In here, dear," the voice sang from the parlor window. "Don't bother running around to the door. Step right in the window." Millie put her Bible on the sill, gathered up her skirts and petticoats, and, after glancing around to make sure no one was watching, swung her legs up and over the window. Wanago bounced to the floor and started to bark up at a tiny, middle-aged lady who was perched like an ornamental vase on the large mantel above the fireplace. Her chintz gown was of her own peculiar design, and a scandalous flash of ankle showed each time she swung her little boot. She was fanning herself with a letter. "Aunt Wealthy!" Millie exclaimed. "Whatever are you doing up there?" "Spring cleaning," Wealthy said. "I was dusting the top of the mirror. Getting down is quite a different matter than getting up, isn't it? The stool tipped when I tried to step on it." "How long have you been up there?" Millie asked, setting the stool upright. "For one long letter and a half a hymn," Wealthy said. "It is fortunate that I found a misplaced epistle from my nephew Horace Jr. on the mantel. It kept me good company for a half-hour, but even accounts of the young Dinsmore's college life could not stretch much longer on the printed page. Wanago fled when I started to sing, and now here you are." Millie pushed the stool closer to the mantel and held up a hand to help her aunt down. "Oh, Aunt Wealthy," Millie cried as Wealthy's boot touched the solid ground. "It's decided." "My child, what is it?" asked the older lady, dropping the letter to take the girl's hand and draw her to a seat on the sofa. "What is decided?" Millie spoke with a determined effort to be calm. "This morning at breakfast, Papa told us children, I mean. He and Mama had talked it over last night, and you know they have been praying about it, and—" "And?" Wealthy clasped Millie's hands to her heart. "We are going to move to Pleasant Plains, Indiana." "The frontier?" Wealthy gasped, sinking back on the couch. Just as soon as we can get ready. Isn't it marvelous? Millie said, and burst into tears. For a moment her listener was dumb with surprise, but it was not in Wealthy Stanhope's nature to witness distress without an effort to comfort and relieve. Now, Millie dear, the older woman said, drawing her niece close. She stroked the hand she held. There will be perhaps some adventures on the journey. I thought you yearned for adventure. I do, but I already know my adventure is completing my studies with Mr. Martin, and then Camilla and I will become the first female students to attend Tristan College. And then we're going to do something grand, something no woman has ever done before, something amazing. We will be doctors, or missionaries to some uncharted place on a faraway continent. We have it all planned. Auntie, I've been praying so hard about this, and I was sure God would find a way for me to stay in Lansdale. I don't want to leave my friends yet. Mama even gave me a verse. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. She recited the words aloud, speaking earnestly, as if she would carve the words into her heart. He will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:6. I thought that meant if I trusted him, I could stay. Wealthy patted her hand in silence for a moment, then said, You mustn't ignore verse 5, dear. Lean not on your own understanding. Why, I remember, the tiny lady said, when God changed my adventure. I was having a wonderful time living in a small room in Boston, helping servants just out of their indentures to find work, and teaching them to read the scriptures. I was sure I would spend my whole life working with the Ladies' Aid Society. Then I received word that my beloved sister's husband had died, and she herself was ill. I hurried home to care for her and her 2-year-old daughter, but she was taken home to the Lord. As you can imagine, I was heartbroken and confused. My whole life had to change. I found myself with a child to raise, your mother, and look what the Lord has done. A spinster like me with a niece as dear as a daughter, and 8 just as good as grandchildren. God had a very special plan. Well, I thought he had one for me, Millie said. Maybe I did something wrong and he changed his mind. Nonsense, Aunt Wealthy said. He isn't just sending the Keith clan. He is sending his very own Millie Keith, the bravest, most outspoken girl I know. There must be something very special he wants you to do in Pleasant Plains. Come along. She led the way into Millie's favorite place in the world, her well-stocked library. On any other day, Millie would have paused as she entered, breathing in the smell of leather bindings, book paste, and paper. If it were quiet, she would imagine that she could hear the voices of the books, 1,000 adventures waiting to be discovered. But today, she followed Aunt Wealthy straight to the atlas that lay on a table. Wealthy flipped to the new state of Indiana and traced an overland route with her finger. What roads there are will be very bad this time of year. Heavy wagons would get bogged down in the mud. Papa said that too. He said the best route would be up the Ohio and Erie Canal to Lake Erie, and around Michigan by ship. Very sensible, Wealthy agreed. Millie examined the maps while Aunt Wealthy pulled another book from the shelf. Tisk, Wealthy said, flipping a page quickly. Tisk, tisk. What are you reading, Auntie? Oh, just a little book written by a friend of mine. He spent some time in the territory that became the state of Indiana not too long ago. Oh, dear! What is it? Millie asked. What does it say? Never mind, Wealthy said, replacing it on the shelf. Perhaps I'll read it later. Would you like to take the maps to school with you today to show your friends? Oh, Auntie, Millie's eyes filled with tears again. That's the worst part. The part I can't bear. No more school for me. There's too much sewing and packing to do between now and when we leave. But what's worse is that out on the frontier there won't be school for me either. At least, not like I have with Mr. Martin. No school? Aunt Wealthy was speechless for a full minute. She brushed a tear from Millie's face. You will still have books, and your father and mother, both educated people, will help you. And who knows but what you may end up with a better education than school can provide. I've found that the knowledge I've gained by my own efforts is often the most useful. Your skill with a needle and thread wasn't learned in school. You were a great help and comfort to your mother because of it." "You're only saying that to cheer me up," Millie said. "Nonsense," Aunt Wealthy said. "Since your mother had to let the servants go, you have been a great help to her. You not only help with the mending, you watch the little ones, and—" A blood-curdling scream brought Wealthy up from her seat, and they both raced to the window. A little girl, with golden ringlets flying and wide blue eyes, burst from the hydrangea bushes and raced to the porch, 2 7-year-old red-headed boys right behind her. Aunt Wealthy reached through the window and scooped the child into her arms. "Fan! Cyril! Dawn!" Wealthy said. "Whatever are you doing?" "Playing," Cyril said, quickly hiding something behind his back. "We're going to the wild frontier!" Dawn yelled. "Wahoo! I'm going to be a long hunter like Davy Crockett." "Me too," said Fan, not to be outdone. "I'm going to hunt bears and wildcats." "I'm not going to wear any clothes," bellowed Dawn. "Donald Keith," scolded Millie, "you most certainly will wear clothes. And Cyril, what are you hiding behind your back?" "His tomahawk," said Fan, wiggling out of Aunt Wealthy's arms. "He was going to scalp me." Millie held out her hand. Cyril reluctantly produced a twisted root that looked a bit like a hatchet. "Cyril, you know better than to play with things like that," Millie said. "You're not Mother," Cyril replied. "Now I'm sure your mother would want you to obey Millie," Aunt Wealthy chided. "Maybe," said Dawn, handing over the pretend tomahawk, "but I asked Mama not to let her tell us what to do." He leaned close to Aunt Wealthy and whispered, "Millie pinches." "Yeah," Cyril agreed. "She pinches hard." "Only when you are very wicked," Millie said, flushing red, "and won't pick up your toys, or when you shout and wake the baby, or try to scalp your little sister." Cyril skipped out of reach, and Dawn peeked around Aunt Wealthy's skirt. "That's quite enough," Aunt Wealthy said firmly. "There will be no scalping today. It is a nasty habit, and quite unnatural." "Indians scalp people," Dawn said. "They did not until some wicked soldiers from France taught them to," Aunt Wealthy said. "A brave long hunter would never scalp his sister. He would lay down his life to protect her, because he would be a Christian gentleman and do just as Jesus would do." "Was Jesus brave?" "Very brave," Aunt Wealthy assured him. "He laid down his life for the world. It was the bravest thing anyone ever did. Now, did Mama say you could play in the back garden?" "Yes," Cyril said. "But first we had to find Millie," Dawn explained. "Mama wants her. Rupert went with Papa to the mercantile, and she needs someone to mind Zilla, Ada, and the baby." "Zilla and Ada are playing dolls," Fan volunteered. "Yuck!" "Why didn't you say Mama needed me straight away?" Millie asked, exasperated. Cyril poked out his tongue at her, from the safety of Aunt Wealthy's skirt tails. Millie's fingers itched to pinch him, but Aunt Wealthy's words were still echoing in her head. Christian gentlemen do just as Jesus would do. Of course, Christian ladies should do the same. "Jesus, you didn't pinch your younger brothers and sisters, did you?" Millie prayed. "Didn't they ever deserve it? I know James must have at least once, so you must know how I feel. I do want to be like you, but it's so hard. Please help me." She shoved the offending fingers deep in the pockets of her apron. "I think I'll take a walk around town," Aunt Wealthy said. "I always pray best when I'm walking, and I want to talk to the Lord. Come along." Millie followed her aunt, but kept a safe distance from her brothers, just in case. A few moments later they said goodbye to Aunt Wealthy at her own gate. Millie stood for a moment and watched as her aunt, armed with a large cotton umbrella, marched briskly towards the business part of town. Could Aunt Wealthy be right? Did Jesus have something for her, Mildred Eleanor Keith, to do in Pleasant Plains? What possible difference could a 12-year-old make in a frontier town?